Hi, this is my mouse breeding presentation. It will go over the mouse breeding project throughout the whole semester, as well as our educated guesses as a group, whether they were spot on or a little bit off, as well as the end result of what we came to, what the parents' genotypes actually were. Our agenda today is we're going to go over record keeping, husbandry, macroenvironment and microenvironment, the whole pregnancy cycle, as well as the final genotypes. Record keeping. This was super important in order to keep track of how our female's pregnancy progress was doing and if there was any concerns that we should be aware of. These were made every single week and were completed by one member of our group in order to familiarize ourselves with the experiment and learn how to complete record keeping for future job opportunities or future experiments just like this one. We used this to keep track of environmental problems, which included humidity and temperature, and if there was any physical health concerns that we should be aware of. As you see on this example that I provided, this maintenance sheet that I filled out myself, they are made once a day. There are reports, but entirely the animals are checked on twice a day throughout the week and the checks were either made by us or an animal care staff when we weren't there, which includes the weekends. Every time there was a cage change, the male and the female were weighed, which eventually included the litter when the litter was born. And right down here is where the comments are, and this is where we would give actual physical observations, which included if there was any concerns with our rodents and whether we saw progress in the female's pregnancy when it was early on of reproduction. Husbandry. Our rodents were kept in a polycarbonate shoebox cage with a food hamper lid. For bedding, they got beta chips, and their enrichment every single week was a Nestle's block or two, a plastic hut, and tubing, which was either a toilet paper roll or PVC pipe. They got a 250cc bottle of water with a zipper lid every time, and their feed was Mouse Diet, which is designed for all stages of life, which helped out when we were trying to wean off our pups. We put Mouse Diet into the actual cage in order to get them started on solid food to stop feeding off the mother. To the left is a really good picture of what our cages actually look like and how they would look like from a mouse view. Obviously, there would be more bedding all over, but this is just an example of what it would look like. For Mouse Diet, the amount of feed that the mice got depended on where they were in the stage of life and pregnancy. So, when we first paired up the female and male together, they got 40 grams of food, which primarily the male ate, and the female didn't eat as much, but it was to feed both of them. Then, when it was obvious that the female was showing signs of pregnancy, we upped the food to 60 grams to support them over the weekend and to help feed her through the pregnancy. Then, when the female finally gave birth and produced her litter, the male and the female were separated, and the female got 35 grams of food to support her through feeding her litter, and the male got 30 grams of food as he was by himself and not reproducing and not doing more activity, to say. Macroenvironment and microenvironment. The temperature and humidity of the rodent room was written down every single day, either by us or an animal care staff. The room was usually 70 degrees Fahrenheit at all times. There was no change in the maintenance sheet, and the humidity stayed between 20 to 25%. It spiked once to 42% on March 6th, but that could just be an error or a heating issue, unknown. Ideally, for rodents, you want the humidity to be between 30 to 70% in cases of ringtail, and obviously we don't want our pregnant mouse to get ringtail. But it didn't seem to affect either of our rodents, so 25% is an okay range to be in. Again, the cages were cleaned twice a week. They were cleaned Monday and Thursday, as well as wellness checks done twice a day. The cage was housed on a stainless steel rack. As similar to this one, our rack was bigger and it had bigger shelves in order to fit more rodent cages, as we have a lot of mice and other species at MATC. Additionally, for when their cages are cleaned, they would get a full change out, which included a fresh water bottle, a fresh shoebox cage, a fresh lid, um, new bedding, and all new enrichment. So a fresh nestlet box, a clean hut, and a clean tube, as well as fresh food. The pregnancy cycle. This picture is a really good picture that shows the cycle that the female went through in order for us to physically notice a difference in her stature to assess that she is pregnant, to figure out when she would have her babies. The gestation of a mouse is between 19 to 21 days. So we tried to do a countdown when we noticed that her weight had gained, which is around stage B, as shown in this picture, in order to figure out when her litter was going to be born. I believe our guess was 3 days after when her litter was originally born, but considering it is between 90 to 21 days, I would consider that a grace period. As you can see in D, another indication of pregnancy is the rounded abdomen. As you can see, she has become very round in this picture. And additionally, they also have a change in mammary glands. You can't see it in this picture because it's from a dorsal view, but if you flip the female over, they would be enlarged. Another indication for us that our female was pregnant was that there seemed to be signs of barbering. On February 3rd, it was first initially reported the male had alopecia on his muzzle, and then over the weekend it had spread to upwards towards his face. On February 7th, the veterinarian had checked in on our mouse and decided that it was not contagious in nature and advised the CVT that it was most likely due to barbering from the female from reproduction. Additionally, the male should be separated from the female when she gives birth. Throughout the pregnancy is totally fine, but the second she gives birth, he should be pulled out and then put into his own cage with his own fresh bedding, food, water, all of that jazz. For genotypes, we came to the conclusion that both of the parents were going to be heterozygous black. Obviously, they were black presenting, as we saw physically, but in order to get all of the genotypes that the offspring presented as, they had to be heterozygous black, which is big B, big D, little d. In order to test this theory, we made a Punnett square to show how many possible offspring colors there actually was, which I color-coded it as well. Originally, from the offspring, there was 3 black females, 1 black male, 1 brown female, 1 brown male, and 1 gray male. As you can see in this Punnett square right here, all of those possibilities are totally valid, and there is even more black than there is any other color. Obviously, there is no tan offspring, but if there was another breeding cycle, I do think it would be a possibility to create that tan offspring. It is just very, very rare since tan is little b, little b, little d, which is completely recessive. Otherwise, besides that, I think this was our best guess for what we actually thought the genotypes would be, and I believe it's a very accurate guess, and it seems to hold up with our rodents. In the end, we ended up separating our females and our male litter when they were weaned, and we decided not to do another breeding cycle, obviously because we have all the genotypes here that provide evidence that our male and our female are both heterozygous black. So, which was the right assessment, since we didn't need another breeding cycle. We also indicated that if there was another breeding cycle, we would like to keep our male since he obviously provided the results we need. But since we don't need another one, we got rid of him. We didn't really need him. But that is the end to my presentation. I used the LAS mouse breeding presentation as my main source of information, and I have sources for all my pictures. Thank you.